Hi, this is Kirk Davis, Executive Director of Camps, and it's my honor and delight today to do this interview with Gregory Koski of IBA. And Gregory, you've been a member of Camps for quite a while, since I've known you. Uh, and you've been a sponsor of events and participant, and you've been a real advocate for the Camps community, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Camps is a wonderful organization. Strongly believe in the U.S. manufacturing sector and made in the USA.
I'll tell you what, it is kind of, we're here in early 2021 and it's on an uptick. We're seeing some really good signs of success in manufacturing here in the US. I'm very excited about that. So thank you. Now, of course, IBA, your company is well known and well thought of, throughout this entire region, this entire area. So I thought it'd be kind of interesting for people to hear about your journey. What got you to this point of in your career, and how did you end up as president of IBA?
Certainly. How I found IBA is an interesting story. We came out to the Pacific Northwest during the Vietnam War. My father was stationed at Fort Lewis. He was a veterinarian, took care of the guard dogs on the base, inspected food going to Vietnam. And when he got out of the service, he didn't want to go back to Ohio. So he settled in Portland, Oregon, and started his own hospital and built it into quite a successful hospital. But in his 40s, my father went through a midlife crisis, decided he didn't want to be a veterinarian anymore. He wanted to work in the corporate world.
Oh.
And so he hired IBA to sell his veterinary hospital. And he was very impressed with them during the process. They got him a good price, sold the real estate along with the practice. And he went off and worked in the corporate world, ended up working as a vice president for Hill's Pet Products, if you know Science Diet dog food.
Oh, yeah.
And he was impressed with them. I left the Northwest, studied business at the University of Texas, explored my first career, and I came back in '94 and didn't know what I wanted to do as the next chapter of my life. And I was talking to my father, and he said, "You're a salesman by personality. You've got the accounting and finance background academically. I think you would be good at selling businesses." So he introduced me to the founder of IBA, Bill Osofsky, and it intrigued me. And I joined the firm in 1994, and 27 years later, I'm still here.
That is quite a career. Now, IBA, is known, for doing over 4,200 transactions since 1975. I mean, you've been with it for 27 years, right? And but they've been around for a lot longer. So, in working with so many businesses on these business transactions, what do you find that your successful clients have in common?
Good question. And you're correct. We are actually the oldest business brokerage firm in the Northwest, having sold over 4,200 businesses. I've personally sold over 300 of those.
Oh, wow.
And been the president and CEO of the firm since 2000, when I purchased it from the founding owner. But what makes businesses successful is pretty self-evident. It's the product quality. A manufacturer who makes a good product, it develops customers. It's having a good team in place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you do not have quality people, from sales to accounting to manufacturing, you're not a quality company. And then innovation and knowledge.
Yeah.
We're seeing an evolution with technology. I enjoyed pre-COVID the camp seminar on Industry 4.0, I believe it was, and was impressed. And it's manufacturers create the products of tomorrow today. And so, you know, you've got to constantly be improving. I could be wrong, but I don't think Camps has a buggy whip manufacturer in its mix anymore.
Do you know, they may have gone by the way. That's a very good point. And yeah, you know, where, you know, our official name, we go by CAMPS, but Center for Advanced Manufacturing, Puget Sound. But this concept of advanced manufacturing is, you're right, where innovation and quality really go together. And so CAMPS is doing some things to really support and connect manufacturers, you know, to the very leading edge of advanced manufacturing, Industry 4.0 and innovation. And it's paying off. You know, yeah, you look at, you know, vehicles or TVs or smartphones. I mean, so many parts of our world now, space, you know, space, aerospace, so many parts of our life are being impacted by advanced manufacturing. And I think you make a really good point there. You know,
when we are blessed in the Northwest with technology, with aerospace,
yeah,
I mean, that's where Camps is really at the 50-yard line on where technology is being created because of the industries in the Puget Sound. Wouldn't you believe that's true?
well, I have to tell you, we've had some people leave Microsoft, leave Hitachi, leave some of these amazing companies and start their own businesses that serve manufacturing, because they said, you know, technology was the darling, you know, of the economy some years ago, but today it's manufacturing. Manufacturing is the darling of the economy today. It's where the future is and where it's going. So you're very right about that.
And we even see like old technologies that are innovative. For example, in 2020, we sold 2 distilleries, companies that manufactured craft alcohol. And there's probably not an older manufacturing industry than the production of alcohol. But even that industry, we're seeing, you know, new approaches,
yes,
new organic best practices, ingredients being used to create, you know, when you and I were growing up many years ago, it was Jose Cuervo, it was Jim Beam, Jack Daniels. Today, when you walk down the alcohol aisle, it's
yeah.
not the national brands. It's a lot of local craft brands that frankly are much better than the high production brands that we saw of yesteryear.
You know, it's so funny. We talk to distilleries and breweries and wineries, and we tell them, you're a manufacturing company, and they'll say, oh, we never thought of ourselves as manufacturing, but they said, when you think about it, our processes are, and the things they think about, the things they worry about, are right in line with manufacturing. And so it's kind of fun to break the news to them that yes, you are in manufacturing.
Exactly.
It's kind of fun, you know, and I think you have a unique viewpoint of business, because every business at some point, even if owners don't want to admit it right now, at some point there will be an exit of the business. And I think you sit at a very interesting place where you get to work with businesses right at that point, and you help them with every step of the way with their fair market value. You know, you help them with the transactional structure of the deal, and you also represent them in the negotiations. So in that, you know, there are businesses who are probably listening to this now who are thinking, you know, I should start planning the exit of my company. What are some things that you want them to know about that journey of getting ready to sell your company?
Certainly. Well, as in the sale of anything, preparation is the key to success. And the start of preparing for sale is to get your financial house in order, because the financial records of a business are going to be reviewed by the buyer, their CPA or CFO, a bank, investors. So you want to be prepared so that those pass scrutiny. You also want to make sure your employee manuals, your
Mhm.
system procedures are up to date, that the equipment, the flow of production looks positive when assessed by someone who's looking for a purchase decision. So definitely want to prepare for the sale. It will enhance your value. Think ahead. And then you combine that with building a team, having your attorney, your CPA in the loop on the process, and then being aware of, trends that are occurring in the industry related to market conditions and market dynamics that can enhance or depress a valuation.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure those are very interesting conversations that you have. And I want people to understand that you're a very trusted resource and a person. And what's nice about these conversations is somebody can get to kind of get to know you, get a feel for you, in these conversations. But it's interesting to me that you have such a broad range of services because, if somebody is looking at merger and acquisitions or a brokerage service to help perhaps buy or sell a business, but you offer consulting services, commercial real estate, franchise sales. You guys offer a full range of services. That's
Certainly. We we are a seller representation company, except in rare situations, usually when a familiar party wants to acquire another company and engages us. We represent the sales side of the transaction. And so that starts with valuation, understanding what value to take a business to market. And the analogy I always use is a ladder.
mm,
Our job with valuation is to be able to walk a buyer up the rungs of the ladder as high as possible. But we need to be able to justify the price.
yeah,
And so if there's no rung, that means you can't justify it and you could fall down in negotiations. Because as I said, we have to sell our value to a buyer, a CPA, a CFO, a banker, investors. So we need to be prepared with that. And then once we arrive at a value, then we've got to confidentially market the business. One of the issues in selling a business is on one side, like selling everything, you want the maximum number of parties to know it's for sale.
mm-hmm,
On the other side, the difficulty in selling a business is you want no one knowing it's for sale.
that's
We
right,
don't want employees, customers, suppliers
right.
knowing it's for sale. So through the use of non-disclosure agreements and strategies and processes, we've got to create a marketplace that is robust, is competitive, but is constrained in information.
Yeah,
And then from there, you proceed into negotiations. And the obvious is price, but you're also negotiating non-competition agreements, tax allocation and implications of the sale, transition training, consulting, a whole spectrum of elements that come together to form a composite of the deal.
yeah. These deals can be pretty complex, which leads to the idea of having a professional help you through it. In my career history, I've had a chance to work with several purchases of businesses, and I got the chance to see how complex they are, all those different pieces of the transaction. So again, it pays to have some help in that journey. It never pays to speak poorly of your competition. So that's not my purpose here. But I overheard one of your testimonials, and they were talking about the fact that they had gone to a certain broker, and he just wondered, can I get a better valuation? and he found IBA, and he said that you actually helped him find a higher valuation and you sold the business at full price. And I think it's really hard to beat that kind of a story. So I'm wondering, what you believe makes you different sometimes from your competition, from other brokers.
Certainly. I think the first thing that differentiates us is we treat our clients like family members. We're gonna give you the exact same advice we give a favorite uncle or aunt. And I believe, if you have integrity and honesty and try to do right by people, it's a foundation for longevity and success in business. And the overruling principle at IBA is a simple one, which is the golden rule of do unto others as you want them to do unto you. And we apply that everywhere. It's how we treat our clients. It's how we treat the buyers we engage with. We try to establish rapport between the buyer and seller so that they're treating each other, so that they virtually get up from the table, walk to the other side, and look at the deal from the other side to establish, is this a fair deal? Is it reasonable? I mean, the unique thing about selling a business is, unlike virtually anything else you buy, you need a relationship between the buyer and seller.
Yeah.
You could buy the most beautiful house on the water and never meet the seller. But if you bought the neighborhood cafe and they're known for their chili, and the chili recipe is not transferred from the seller to the buyer, then the customers are not going to be happy, because that is what they came in for, their chili and cornbread on a specific day of the week. So very simple business example, but very, very true that we need to set an environment that's not confrontational, but collaborative, where there can be a knowledge transfer, where employees are retained, where customers are retained, where product quality stays the same through a transition of ownership. I mean, Kirk, you've been through several transitions.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have experiences where it was done right and done wrong?
What I saw so many times was how deals fell apart, because those elements that you talked about weren't in place. And so I saw a lot of people come up to bat and, have their financial records in order and other things. But if it was not a collaborative, good faith, good, fair, transaction, essentially those transactions fell apart. And so I think what you're saying really leads to a real win-win, business deal.
And the other thing I would throw out that separates IBA, and we're fairly unique about this in the Northwest, is we are paid 100% on performance. And we represent businesses in a large spectrum. So we sell companies for 6, 7, and 8 figures annually.
Yeah.
And we do not charge a penny until the deal is completed. And if we've done our job, we're only getting paid by happy customers when they get paid at the completion of the deal. And I believe having us in the boat with vested interests and alignment with our clients is a real difference with IBA. And it can take months to years to complete a project. I have a project right now for $16 million that's waiting on government approval, because it's a manufacturer service company that's being sold that has government contracts. And the transition of ownership, some of these requiring top secret clearances, they need government approval before the transition can occur. And again, you just need someone who sees the process from start to finish.
Well, I have to say that you beat me to the punch. This was actually going to be my next question about this. Secret to your success is actually not charging at all until the time of the transaction. And I can't help but feel like you mentioned that that aligns your ultimate interest with the client's ultimate interest. So there's an incentive for both of you to do well. I mean, that's a hard recipe to beat.
It is. And it also plays back into valuation, because there's two business models in the mergers and acquisition industry. There's our model, which is really clean. You pay us if we perform. The other model charges retainers and administrative fees. Both of us start with business valuation. Well, there are honorable firms that employ both business models. I have friends at competitive firms that charge retainers and administrative fees, and in theory, we both get paid the same. But both processes start with valuation, and unfortunately, there are less than honorable firms who give an inflated valuation of the company, and so they have a happy customer when they write a check. And it very much bothers me in those situations, because we have a vested interest, to be honest, because if it doesn't sell, we don't get paid. And every year we pick up customers that have spent a year or more with another firm who don't deliver the sales element. They valued it, they're consultants, but at its core, mergers and acquisition is big ticket sales, and you need to deliver the transaction. Yeah. Or what are you doing for the client?
Yeah, that's, it pays when you have a strategy to stop and look at the results once in a while. And of course, I think that what you're talking about is really getting the ball over the goal line, with clients. And I think that's huge. Speaking of business deals, one of them I think that's interesting, that I don't know how long you've been doing this, but I saw that Kurt Meyer was certified in working in the franchise market. And I'm just curious, have you been in that for a couple of years now or longer?
Certainly. Kurt Meyer is one of the senior executives at IBA. And one of Kurt's responsibilities is to head up our franchise brokerage department. And one of the frustrations as a buyer is you can't order a location of a business, an industry of the business, or how big or opportunity that exists for the business. So Kurt has the ability to sell franchises that let the buyer place them in the geographic location they want or the industry we want. And I'll give you an example. We all think like food service for franchises, but there are many industrial franchises that exist. So one IBA has sold in the past is called Pertec. And what Pertec does is they repair and replace hydraulic hoses for equipment and machinery. Well, the business we sold, which was a Pertec location that, for example, worked on Navy ships when they would come in to the harbor, or Coast Guard ships, because they had to do routine maintenance and replacement of hoses. There was a franchise opportunity that wouldn't be on many people's radar.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. But what a great, that's a target-rich environment, isn't it?
Well, and the beauty of a franchise is the business plan, the support structure is already in place.
Yeah.
And for example, one thing that Kurt works with, and we're in alignment with camps on supporting our military individuals transitioning out of the military into the private sector. We work with veterans who leave and want to buy a business. Kurt works with them, and many times they will take their military experience or their spouse's experience and buy a franchise as the next chapter of their life.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. So I think it's really good for everybody to know that you have that capability, that they can, through you, focus again on a franchise opportunity that gives them a little more control over the situation. I think that's really great. So
well, our biggest problem is we can't order inventory. So if a person, let's say, lives in Gig Harbor and wants to own a business, they can wait years to find a business.
Yes.
Well, a franchise gives them control.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that. I think that if a business is saying to themselves, I need to have this conversation about selling my business, what time horizon do you tell people to start thinking, planning, having these conversations? Is it a couple of years out, 5 years out? What's your rule of thumb for starting the conversation?
Well, you want to think ahead of the curve.
Mm-hmm.
We generally take 3 to 9 months to sell a business. So if you want to retire in 2022, you need to start planning ahead for that occurrence. We actually offer a complimentary business valuation to potential clients because our goal with that is to build rapport, show our knowledge and experience. And we have many people who will understand how a business is valued and develop a relationship with us, and then use that to fine-tune systems to maximize the value in the future.
Oh, that's great.
So I will say that things also drive sales at a given place and time. 2 things to be aware of in the present world. One is the long-term capital gains tax rate is currently at 23.8% for most of our clients. Over the last 50 years, it's run from 15% to 35%. Well, this tax rate is applicable to goodwill of a business. So if you have a manufacturing company, let's say most of your assets have been depreciated to 0.
Yeah.
When you sell, you are going to be mostly goodwill. And just pick a number. Say it's sold for $5 million. If $4 million of that was goodwill, then you're going to be right now 23.8. But if it went up 10%,
yeah,
you've just lost $400,000 of your net proceeds from the sale for something that's beyond your control.
Yeah.
And so you need to be aware of the pendulum with taxes, depending on administrations and policies.
Yeah.
And our guess is that the long-term capital gains tax rate is not going to go up in 21, but I think we need to pay for all the stimulus in the pandemic. So I think there's a probability the tax rate goes up in 22, and the reality is the constituents who are impacted by capital gains taxes will never tip an election one way or the other. It's a
right.
Small demographic, but for us, entrepreneurs, it hits every single one of them.
Yeah.
And so that is something that people need to be aware of at the present, because we could be looking at where a business that sells in 21 or 22, the net proceeds are significantly less next year than this year.
Yeah, no, it's a great thing to keep in mind. And, based on the economic forecast that I've seen and things going relatively well economically, you can bet that politicians will have their eyes on tax hikes. So, so I think you're sharing a great piece of wisdom there.
Well, and unfortunately, entrepreneurs are caught in the same boat with the tech individuals in Washington State. And actually, a lot of the focus on this capital gains tax is people who work for Amazon and Microsoft who sell their shares.
Right.
It's the exact same tax rate. They're not trying to hurt business owners or the family farm, but they end up being caught in the same net.
That's right.
And their life work gets discounted at time of sale.
Oh, that's right. No, I think, if a person's in the position, if the reasons are right, there's probably some advantages from a net proceeds point of view, to take advantage of that sooner rather than later. So we don't see a situation where really the tax rate will go down, but more likely that the tax rate will go up. So again,
and another thing that's a unique time and place element is that interest rates are on all-time lows.
yes.
So that is also fueling acquisitions right now because it's cheap money, and there are programs out there that allow people to not pay for the first 6 months of principal and interest on their acquisition loans.
Wow.
Up to, I believe it's a $9,000 a month payment. So you essentially, if you buy a business now, can get $25,000, $50,000 of a price discount as a buyer. And there may be camps members who want to look at growth by acquisition in the present economy.
That's
I know we have multiple wonderful banks who are part of the camps membership who finance deals that we're involved with on a regular basis.
Yeah. In fact, you make a really good point that this is probably a good season of acquisition right now, and I'm hearing about some of that activity myself. So that's a very good point. And on another topic, I noticed that both you and Kurt were quoted in a new book that came out by John Martinka called "Getting the Deal Done." So that's quite an honor to be quoted.
Well, we actually wrote chapters for the book. If you read it, John reached out to us as one of the most knowledgeable, experienced firms in the region and asked us to contribute content along with some other firms.
Yeah.
And so Kurt and I actually provided chapters. We weren't just quoted in the book. We provided content.
You provided content for the book, but I noticed that you're being interviewed more, that you write a lot of great blog posts, and you offer a lot of really good education and ideas for business owners. And I'm wondering if if the thought of writing a book has crossed your mind.
It has crossed my mind. I actually have 2 fiction book ideas that bounce around my mind. As far as professional writing, and thank you for mentioning our blog, that has been my focus. We developed our blog 7 years ago as a library resource for the entrepreneurial community. We've had over 70 guest authors. We identified that there wasn't a lot of good content out there to buy and selling businesses for the owners of privately held companies. And so we developed the blog and published once or twice a week, and we encourage people to visit the resource and take advantage of the quality content.
I highly recommend it. You share some really great articles, and I enjoy reading them. And they're a great insight coming from your experience. So yeah, I highly recommend your blog. And
And
uh,
we've been honored that other camps members have provided content in the past. For example, I believe you interviewed Michelle Baumberger
yes.
previously, and Michelle, who is a collaborative partner as a law firm, Equinox, has provided content relevant to her role in mergers and acquisition deals.
Gosh, that's wonderful. Yeah, that's she's a great team member. She contributes a lot to camps, and we really appreciate her. It's cool that you brought up her name. One of the things, Gregory, about you is that you're really good at winning friends and influencing people. You've got a good way about you, and I know that you've got a lot of connections. You stay up to date on the economy and politics, things that might affect your clients. But what's your philosophy of networking and staying so well informed?
Well, no one owns all knowledge and experience. So there may be a little bit of a selfish interest in that I really want to build the best teams to represent our clients on transactions and have resources if I have questions in different areas that could benefit people. And I am a voracious reader. I do believe in helping people. I believe givers gain. So,
There you go.
both my wife and I, whether it's volunteering in the Lake Washington School District or, with people with disabilities, I have a special needs brother and
Oh,
am
wow.
engaged with at work that helps people with disabilities find employment. We believe in giving, and if you receive some future benefit from helping another, that's just a byproduct. It's, we're all part of the same community. We should help someone, whether it's opening a door or providing knowledge or whatever you can do.
I think that's such a wonderful point of view and a real secret to success. So I hope everybody was listening, because that, what you just shared is really a very key secret to success. And I see that in you and your team that I get a chance to meet and work with. I find that there's, in talking with you and getting ready for this interview, there's a lot of different reasons that a business might, choose to work with IBA when they're buying or selling their business. And I think your track record of success is definitely one of those big reasons. I think the other is that you offer your services at no charge until the time of the sell. So, I mean, you've got so many good reasons, but I think some of the bigger things that maybe aren't easily as seen, because those are very big and obvious, but your ethics, the confidentiality that you work with, your market knowledge, your transactional experience, those negotiation skills, and the way you treat your customers, I hope are themes that people heard throughout this interview that will make them say, gosh, if I was going to talk to somebody, I'm going to talk to Gregory and the IBA team, to start the process or to explore the process of selling my business. So I really appreciate what you guys bring in, that spirit of giving, that spirit of caring, but the spirit of treating your clients like family. I really like that part of our conversation earlier as well. So yeah, I think how many employees do you guys have all together now at IBA?
So we have 10 brokers in the field putting deals together, and they all have different specialties. One of my brokers is active in the Washington Hospitality Association and recently did a hill climb with them, trying to help our small business owners who own restaurants, bakeries, bars, hotels, those sort of things. We're members of the Master Builders Association. So, helping serve the construction industry. Each of my brokers has different specialties. One that I'm proud of is many entrepreneurs are first generation Americans, and IBA is unique in that I have a native speaking Argentinian broker who speaks Spanish, who works with that community. I have another broker who's originally from Russia who serves that entrepreneurial community. I have another one who speaks several dialects of Indian languages who serves that community. One thing I really love about what we do is America has an unparalleled ladder of opportunity financially that most people take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
But people who come here from another country, they are blown away at what is possible here with just a good idea, hard work, and execution. And, you know, the stories are immense.
Yeah.
Of people who came here with nothing.
Yeah.
And built companies that now have product that is, you know, synonymous with that brand category. I think of, you know, the Goya product line.
Huge.
That, you know, if you've read their story, which is amazing, they basically started in an apartment, I believe, in New York, bringing products that weren't available in the groceries. And now in Hispanic food, it is the brand.
Yeah.
I mean, you go down any aisle at a QFC, the Hispanic product aisle is dominated with the Goya brand.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And you know, I've had several of these conversations with immigrants who have come here and made just amazing successes out of almost literally nothing. And those stories are really, really interesting. But you're right, there is a unique ladder of opportunity that I hope nobody listening to this will take for granted. And of course, I think this opportunity for people to get to know you and IBA is going to be really instrumental in them and where they want to go, whether it's connecting with you personally or reading your blog. I think that there's bankers and CPAs also that are going to listen to this interview and be very interested in referring their clients to you as well. I think this has been one of the best of the best interviews, you know, that I've done. I get a chance to interview some really top and amazing business people, you know, but your knowledge, your experience, the integrity that you bring to the process, proven by your own business model, I think is very unique. And if somebody who's listening to this wants to reach out to you, Gregory, or you or your team, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Well, I'd like to say thank you very much for allowing me to participate in this interview. I mean, you as a successor to Tom have built a wonderful organization with camps that's really the gold standard in this region as far as manufacturing trade associations. But if someone wants to reach us, you can reach me at our corporate headquarters at 425-454-3052. Our website is ibainc.com, so ibainc.com. And my email address, as are all ours, and it speaks to, you know, how we approach it, is just my first name, Gregory at ibainc.com. I mean, we want to be on a first name basis. We want to, you know, be in the trenches with the buyer and seller, making a win-win transaction.
You know, I want to just kind of conclude this by mentioning that the camp's staff, you know, including Tom and the camp's board, who are amazing people, who are part of this community of manufacturing success in this area. And our vision, our mission is to really make the manufacturers in Washington State globally competitive and highly successful. But I want to thank you and your business, the quality that you bring to the camps community as a member and a sponsor of so many of our events, and your willingness to participate and help spread the word of camps. I think as a community, we're strengthened by you. So I want to tell you thank you very much.
And thank you.